All right, so you're getting ready for a diesel engine mechanic interview. That's pretty cool. We're going to do a deep dive into RoleCatcher's guides today to help you nail it. We've got a career guide, an interview guide, and a massive question repository.
It's like a whole toolbox full of resources just to help you build like the perfect answers.
Exactly. We're going to cover what the job actually entails, those tricky interview questions, and how RoleCatcher's AI can give you a serious edge.
Think of us as your co-pilots, just navigating through this whole process.
I love that analogy.
Yeah.
So first things first, let's talk about what a diesel engine mechanic really does. I think some people might have this image of just like fixing trucks, but it's so much more than that, right?
Yeah, it's way more nuanced than that. You're not just turning wrenches, you're like a problem solver. Diesel mechanics, they diagnose these complex engine problems, they disassemble and inspect components, and they even use specialized tools to actually make repairs. It's a blend of technical expertise, analytical thinking, and then just good old-fashioned hands-on work.
Yeah, and the career guide actually mentions that diesel mechanics are vital across so many industries. Transportation, construction, agriculture, even power generation.
Absolutely, and that's what makes it such an exciting field. You could be working on anything from like a semi-truck to a bulldozer to a generator powering a hospital.
Yeah, talk about impact.
Yeah.
So let's jump into those interview questions. RoleCatcher's guide provides some common ones. What's the first one we should tackle?
Well, they almost always start with that classic, can you describe your experience working with diesel engines? It seems simple, but it's your first chance to make a really strong impression.
Okay, so how do we craft an answer that goes beyond just listing our previous jobs?
Yeah, this is where you really want to connect your experience to the specific role that you're interviewing for. Did you specialize in a certain type of engine? Did you work on any projects that required advanced troubleshooting skills? Just highlight those details.
Yeah, and the career guide also mentions the importance of showcasing your passion for the work. How do we weave that in?
It's all about the details. Instead of just saying, I'm passionate about diesel engines, tell them why. Maybe you were fascinated by engines as a kid. Or maybe you love the challenge of figuring out complex mechanical problems. You really want to let your enthusiasm shine through.
It's like telling a mini story that showcases your personality and your genuine interest in the field. And this is where RoleCatcher's AI can actually come into play, right?
Absolutely. It can analyze the job description and your resume, and it can identify the most relevant experiences to actually highlight. It can even suggest keywords to use in your answer.
That's pretty amazing. It's like having a personalized scriptwriter for your interview.
Exactly. And speaking of scripting, let's move on to another really common question. What steps do you take when diagnosing a diesel engine problem?
Okay, this one feels a bit more technical. What are they really looking for here?
They want to see that you have a really systematic approach, like a clear process for identifying and solving problems. Imagine you're a detective investigating a case. You need to gather clues and follow a logical path.
So walk us through an example. Let's say we're faced with like a no-start situation. Where do we even begin?
Well, I always start with the basics. Is there fuel in the tank? Are the batteries charged? Then I move on to checking things like the fuel pressure, the glow plugs, and I even inspect the injectors. It's like a step-by-step process of elimination, and I always document my findings along the way.
That systematic approach is key. And mentioning documentation just shows that you're thorough and organized.
Exactly. And think about potential follow-up questions that they could ask. The interviewer might say, what if you check the fuel pressure and it's low? What would you do next? Be prepared to explain your reasoning and your next steps.
So it's not just about memorizing a list of steps. It's about understanding the why behind each action.
Right, and RoleCatcher's AI can actually help you practice answering these questions and provide feedback on your responses. It's like having a mock interview with a diesel engine expert.
That's incredibly valuable. It really takes the guesswork out of preparation. Okay, let's move on to another question. How do you ensure your work meets safety standards? Safety is obviously a top priority in this field.
Absolutely. And interviewers want to see that you take it seriously, too.
So how do we craft an answer that shows we're not just following the rules because we have to, but because we genuinely prioritize safety?
Start by demonstrating your knowledge of relevant safety regulations. Mention OSHA guidelines, any specific regulations for your region or industry, and any manufacturer-specific safety procedures that you're familiar with.
Okay, that shows we're knowledgeable, but how do we make it personal?
Share specific examples of how you actually prioritize safety in your daily work. Do you always double-check your work to prevent potential hazards? Do you proactively identify and report any safety concerns? Maybe you even implemented a new safety procedure at your previous job.
Those real-world examples make it more impactful, and I bet RoleCatcher's AI can help us brainstorm those, right?
You bet. It can analyze your work history and suggest safety-related accomplishments to mention. It's like having a personal PR agent for your safety record.
I love that. Okay, let's tackle one more question before we take a break. This one's all about staying current. How do you keep up with changes in diesel engine technology? I imagine that's crucial in this field with new advancements happening all the time.
It's absolutely essential to be a lifelong learner in this industry. Interviewers want to see that you're not content to rest on your laurels. You're actively seeking out new knowledge and you're staying ahead of the curve.
So what are some good ways to demonstrate that? I subscribe to a few YouTube channels about diesel engines. Does that count?
Definitely. Mention any relevant YouTube channels, podcasts, or online forums that you follow. It shows that you're engaged and curious. But go beyond just passive learning. Have you taken any recent training courses? Do you read any industry publications? Have you been researching new technologies like electric or hybrid diesel systems?
Those are all great examples. It's about showing that we're not just watching videos, we're actively seeking out knowledge and applying it to our work.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to get specific. Did you recently attend a training on a new type of fuel injection system? Are you familiar with the latest emissions control technologies? Those details demonstrate your depth of knowledge.
And again, RoleCatcher's AI can help us tailor those examples to the specific job, right?
Absolutely. It can analyze the job description and suggest relevant technologies or trends to mention. It's like having a cheat sheet for industry buzzwords.
That's so helpful. Okay, I think we've covered some great ground here. We've talked about how to showcase our experience, our problem-solving process, our commitment to safety, and our dedication to continuous learning.
And we've touched on how RoleCatcher's AI can be your secret weapon throughout this whole process, from tailoring your answers to practicing your delivery.
This has been super insightful, but we've only just scratched the surface. There's so many more questions to cover.
Definitely. We'll dive into more of those challenging interview questions in our next segment, so stay tuned. You ready to tackle some more of those interview questions?
Absolutely. Let's fire up those engines and get back on track.
All right, let's dive into a question that really lets you showcase your problem-solving skills. Can you describe a time when you had to troubleshoot a complex diesel engine problem? This is your chance to shine.
Ooh, story time. But what kind of story are they looking for here?
They want to see your analytical thinking in action. You want to choose a situation where you faced a particularly challenging engine issue, something that really tested your skills. Maybe it was an intermittent problem that was hard to diagnose, or a situation where you had to get creative with your repair methods.
So it's not just about the problem itself, it's about how we approached it.
Right? Exactly.
Mm.
Walk them through your thought process. What were the symptoms? What tests did you run? What resources did you consult? And most importantly, how did you ultimately solve the problem?
It's like painting a picture of our problem-solving journey, showing them how we think and how we work under pressure.
Right. And don't forget to highlight the outcome. Did you get the engine running smoothly again? Did you receive any positive feedback from a customer or a supervisor? Quantifying your success adds impact.
So a good story with a beginning, a middle, and a triumphant end. Now, RoleCatcher's AI can help us craft these stories too, right?
Absolutely. It can analyze your work history and suggest specific situations to highlight. It can even help you structure your story in a compelling way. Think of it as your personal storytelling coach.
That's fantastic. Okay, let's shift gears to a question about multitasking. How do you prioritize tasks when working on multiple diesel engines? I imagine that's a common scenario in busy shops.
It's all about staying organized and managing your time effectively. Interviewers want to see that you can handle the pressure of a fast-paced environment and that you have a system for keeping everything on track.
So what's a good approach to answering this question?
First, you explain your method for prioritization. Do you use a to-do list? Do you color code work orders? Do you triage based on urgency or engine type? Whatever your system is, explain it clearly and provide specific examples.
So it's not enough to just say, I do the most important things first. We need to back it up with a concrete approach.
Exactly. You could say something like, when I'm juggling multiple engines, I always start by identifying any urgent repairs that need immediate attention, like a truck that's stranded on the side of the road. Then I prioritize based on engine type or complexities, grouping similar tasks together to work more efficiently.
That makes sense. It shows that we're thinking strategically about our workload and that we're not just randomly jumping from one task to another. Now let's talk about those less glamorous but equally important tasks. Can you describe your experience with routine maintenance on diesel engines?
While it might not be as exciting as troubleshooting, a major breakdown, routine maintenance is the foundation of keeping engines running smoothly. Interviewers want to know that you understand the importance of these tasks and that you have the skills and experience to perform them effectively.
So how do we make something like an oil change or a filter replacement sound impressive in an interview?
It's all about emphasizing your thoroughness and attention to detail. Even for those seemingly simple tasks, highlight the steps you take to ensure that the job is done correctly and that nothing is overlooked.
So even if it feels routine to us, it's still an opportunity to showcase our professionalism and our commitment to quality.
Exactly. And you can connect those routine tasks back to the bigger picture. For example, you could say, I understand that routine maintenance is crucial for preventing major problems down the line. I take pride in performing these tasks meticulously because I know they contribute to the engine's longevity and reliability.
That's a great way to frame it.
Right.
It shows we're not just going through the motions. We understand the why behind the what.
Right.
Okay, let's tackle one more question before we wrap up this section. Time pressure seems to be a recurring theme in these questions. How about this one? Can you describe a time when you had to work on a diesel engine under a tight deadline?
Deadlines are a reality in any job, but especially in the fast-paced world of diesel mechanics. Interviewers want to see that you can handle the pressure, stay focused, and deliver quality work even when the clock is ticking.
So what's the key to answering this question effectively?
Choose an experience where you truly excelled under pressure, where you had to be resourceful and efficient. Maybe you had to repair a piece of critical farm equipment during harvest season, or maybe you had to get a delivery truck back on the road to prevent a major delay.
Those are great examples.
Oh.
So set the scene, explain the urgency, and then walk them through how we managed our time, solved problems, and ultimately met the deadline.
Exactly. And don't forget to mention the outcome. Did you receive positive feedback for your quick turnaround? Did you prevent a costly delay? Those details add weight to your story.
Okay, I think we've covered a lot of ground here. We've talked about showcasing our problem-solving skills, our ability to prioritize tasks, and our commitment to both routine maintenance and working under pressure.
And we've touched on how RoleCatcher's AI can help us prepare for each of these questions, from brainstorming examples to practicing our delivery.
But before we move on, I want to circle back to something we briefly mentioned earlier, showcasing our passion for diesel engines. It's one thing to say we're passionate, but how do we actually convey that enthusiasm during an interview?
That's a great point. It's all about those little details that make your story come alive.
So give us some examples. How do we make our passion palpable?
Think about what sparked your interest in this field. Was it a childhood fascination with big rigs? A love of tinkering with engines in your garage? A desire to work on machinery that makes a real-world impact? Share those stories.
It's like letting our personality shine through, showing them we're not just reciting lines from a script.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to geek out a little. If you're excited about a particular engine model or a new technology, let them know. That genuine enthusiasm is contagious.
It's like saying, I'm not just here for a paycheck, I'm genuinely interested in this stuff.
Right. And that passion can make you a more valuable asset to any team.
This has been incredibly helpful. But before we dive into more interview questions, I think it's time to talk about RoleCatcher's AI in more detail.
I agree. We've mentioned it throughout this episode, but let's really unpack how this technology can transform your interview preparation.
Let's do it. It's like having a secret weapon in our back pocket, and it's time to reveal its full potential. All right, we've talked about showcasing our experience, our problem-solving skills, and even our passion for diesel engines. But what about RoleCatcher's AI? How can this technology really help us prepare for a diesel engine mechanic interview?
Well, it's like having a personalized interview coach and a whole team of diesel engine experts rolled into one.
That sounds amazing. Break it down for us. How does it actually work?
Okay, so first, you tell RoleCatcher about the specific job you're applying for. You can upload the job description or even just copy and paste it into the platform.
Okay, so it understands the specific skills and experience the employer is looking for? Then
Then RoleCatcher's AI goes to work. It analyzes your resume, your work history, and even your answers to practice interview questions. It's looking for those golden nuggets, the experiences and skills that align perfectly with the job requirements.
So it helps us tailor our responses to each specific job rather than just using generic answers.
Exactly. And it goes beyond just identifying what to say. It can also suggest how to say it. It can help you structure your answers in a clear and compelling way using language that resonates with the employer.
That's incredibly helpful. It's like having a professional speechwriter helping us craft the perfect responses.
It even provides feedback on your delivery. You can record yourself answering practice questions, and RoleCatcher's AI will analyze your tone, your pacing, even your body language. And it gives you tips on how to improve your overall presentation.
Wow, it's like having a virtual mock interview with expert feedback. That's invaluable. But let's get back to those tricky interview situations. What about those moments when we completely blank on a question? Any advice on how to handle that gracefully?
Don't panic. It happens to everyone. The key is to stay calm and buy yourself some time. Take a deep breath and say something like, "That's a great question. Let me think about that for a moment."
That acknowledges the question and it shows that we're taking it seriously rather than just blurting out the first thing that comes to mind.
Right. And while you're gathering your thoughts, try to connect the question to something you are familiar with. Can you relate it to a previous experience, a specific engine problem you've solved, or a concept you've studied?
It's about finding a way to bridge the gap and get those mental gears turning again.
Exactly. And if you're still drawing a blank, don't be afraid to be honest and say, "I'm not entirely sure about that, but I'd be happy to research it and get back to you."
That shows that we're willing to learn and that we're not afraid to admit when we don't know something, which is a valuable quality in any employee. Okay, here's another one that always makes me nervous. The dreaded, "what are your weaknesses?" question. How do we handle that without sabotaging ourselves?
I know it feels like a trap, but it's actually an opportunity to show that you're self-aware and committed to continuous improvement.
Okay, so how do we spin a weakness into a positive?
You want to choose a weakness that's relatable and that you're actively working to improve. For example, you could say, "I sometimes get so focused on the details that I can lose track of the bigger picture. But I'm working on improving my time management skills and my ability to prioritize tasks effectively."
So it's about acknowledging the weakness, but also showcasing our commitment to growth and development.
Exactly. And be specific about the steps you're taking to address the weakness. Are you taking a course? Reading books? Seeking feedback from colleagues? Those details make your answer more convincing.
It shows that we're not just talking the talk, we're walking the walk. Okay, I think we've covered some really valuable ground here. We've talked about how to showcase our experience, our problem-solving skills, and our passion for diesel engines. We've also explored how RoleCatcher's AI can be an invaluable tool throughout the interview process. From tailoring our answers to providing feedback on our delivery.
It's all about maximizing your chances of landing that dream job.
But before we wrap up, I want to emphasize something important. An interview is a two-way street. It's not just about them evaluating us, it's also about us evaluating them.
That's a crucial point. We often forget that we have a choice too.
Exactly. So pay attention to the company culture, ask thoughtful questions, and trust your gut. If something feels off, it probably is.
It's about finding the right fit for both our skills and our personality.
Well said. And remember, you've got this. You've put in the work, you've honed your skills, and you're ready to shine.
Go out there, ace that interview, and land that dream job. And if you ever need a refresher course, you know where to find us.
We'll be here ready to help you navigate the exciting world of diesel mechanics. Until next time, keep those engines running smoothly.